Hi, everyone. Welcome to this is officially Creaky Kitchen episode 6, which means we've all been together for 6 months now. Can you believe it? Thank you, Chantelle, for this is our sixth recipe with you. This is so exciting, and we have a lot of fun in store for tonight. We have Charis Hill on who will join us while the food cooks. We'll hear gardening tips. If any of you in the audience have gardening tips and want to share with us, share it in the chat. And if you're comfortable sharing your tips on camera, you can, of course, let us know in the chat and we'll call on you. We love to hear you interacting with us throughout the night through the chat. You can let us know where you're dialing in from. I'm home in New Jersey right now. Welcome to my kitchen. It's great to see you all here. And I know that we were talking about doing a gripper design contest, and we're still considering what design we want to do for the grippers. And once we come up with a design, we'll make sure to announce it and have lots of fun with you all. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Chef Chantelle, who will teach us a beautiful pasta primavera recipe so we can celebrate spring as the weather is getting warmer, at least here in New Jersey. I know we're having a cold front today, so maybe not too in theme, but we're looking ahead with this recipe. Chantelle, it's all you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our kitchen. And I'm going to say our kitchen tonight because number one, I'm sharing my kitchen with you, but tonight is the first night I'm actually going to give my husband producer credit because he went to the store and picked up the majority of these vegetables today. So shout out to you right there. So he gets producer credit for the day. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a quick pasta primavera, which is a recipe I learned a million years ago, possibly in high school, culinary school or something like that. At the moment, I am just waiting for my pot to come up to boil. So I know it's asking a lot, Zoe, but can you give me 2 minutes?
Of course, we can give you 2 minutes.
I'm just going to run and make sure that this is all set, and then I will be right back, okay?
Yeah, that's all good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've all been there. I always, whenever I'm making recipes and it says, okay, 10 minutes to prepare, I always budget at least 20 minutes for myself. I usually double the time. I have arthritis, as some of you all know, and I find it takes so much time. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there, wait, I forgot to put up the water and I need it to boil. So I totally get it. It happens to me all the time. I see people are calling in from the Atlanta area. Great to have you on. Our co-host Corey Greenblatt's also on, and I believe, Corey, you're in New York. How are you doing tonight, Corey?
I am in New York and I'm doing well tonight. I'm happy to be here and happy to be joined by everyone and learn this recipe from Chantelle because I'm always trying to figure out new ways to include veggies in my diet. So always happy to when that includes a big plate of pasta as well.
I know, I love pasta. It is definitely my guilty pleasure that isn't so guilty, if we're going to be honest here. Anyone else in the audience love pasta? Checking in from New York and very jealous of Caris's hat. Yes, Caris will give gardening tips later on in this evening once the food is cooking. Great shout out. Opposite coast from NY, Olympia, Washington here. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in. From Canada, we're tuning in from different countries. This is amazing. It's great to have you all on. If you all have a favorite spring recipe or summer recipe, even definitely share with us. We'd love to hear. I know I love to start making more salads and definitely lots of stuff with vegetables. So I'm excited to get this new recipe from Chantelle tonight.
And it looks like we're good to go.
Awesome. That was perfect segue. Take it away.
Awesome. So over here, I've got a large pot of boiling water. Generally, that is a danger to folks like myself with arthritis. I filled the pot, I put it on a while ago, actually, when I was feeling a little bit better, kind of deteriorating as the night goes on. So that's why this afternoon I did this. Can y'all see that? I did all my prep this afternoon and then I just covered everything in plastic. I rinsed my onions, couldn't find shallots today, so we're with red onion. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to liberally salt my water. You want it to taste like the sea, as they say. So I'm going to put a couple of big handfuls of salt in, let that simmer. And then to that, I'm adding 227 grams of penne pasta. How do I know it's 227 grams? It's exactly half a box. And I want to introduce you guys, because we're family, to the newest member of our household. That's it. It's our digital scale. I know he's little, but he's strong and he's very smart. And he helped me get the accurate measurement today. So we're very happy to welcome him into our home. And this is how I'm going to hopefully get back into baking. I haven't been much into baking since I haven't had a scale. So I don't know why that was completely necessary for me, because you know you can use cups and things, but nope, not me. I need a scale. So I finally got another scale. So if you guys have, in addition to summer recipes and things like that, if you guys want to direct message me or tweet me, let me know what your recipes are for baking, especially if you're doing anything that's gluten-free. I'm really trying to look into getting into more of that kind of baking. So if you have anything, send it to me on Twitter. I have an open page, Chantelle617, and happy to take any recipe. I will test, this will become our test kitchen if you want. So our pasta is in. This is our spider. I'm just gonna stir it about. And then this is a very hot pan. It's a big 12-inch pan that I was gifted by my dad, thank God, because I never had a 12-inch pan before. And so we're gonna start with a couple of turns of olive oil. And as you can see, the pan is ripping hot, so it's already going. And then I'm gonna toss in my onions. And as you see, everything is here waiting to go. And the reason for that is it makes it a lot easier. It's called mise en place. You'll hear me talk about it a lot. It's just the basic principle of cooking. Have everything ready. So those are in. And then our carrots go in. And I've got the pan over like medium high heat. And as I'm tossing everything in, you'll probably notice that everything is super uniformly cut. That's not because I'm the best with a knife, although in my opinion I am, but I've seen better. Jack Pepon, you're the best. But it's a V slicer. It is the greatest thing. My father got this back in the 80s. And I've had one in my kitchen since forever. No, yes, there is a better smell since the onions are cooking for sure. And so I've had one forever, and it's great because you can do like all kinds of like juliennes and stuff like that. It's just phenomenal. So I wanted to let these go for just a couple of minutes, but they're getting a little color anyway. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and just drop all the rest of the vegetables kind of in order. And like I said in the recipe, you want this to taste, you want to taste the rainbow. You want to see every color because it's springtime, right? So I'm gonna go with the heavier vegetables first. I'm gonna go with your peppers and say I got a red one and an orange one. And I'll let those go for a second. And if you can't do the jerky motion thing, it's fine. Just use a spatula. You just want to make sure everything is getting coated in the olive oil and they're all getting friendly with each other. Springtime. So we've got those in. I like to season in layers as we've discussed, so I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a little bit of salt and pepper before I add the next set of vegetables. If you want, you can put a little bit of red pepper in this. I'm not going to put red pepper in it today, only because in the oven I have going some pretty spicy shrimp. So those are going to go up on top of this when we're done. So, you know, not adding it as of yet, but all good. Feel free to add if you like. And also, like I said, great pantry pull kind of what do you have left in, I mean, to be honest, these peppers were not the greatest looking peppers this morning, but I did what I could. So they look really pretty now, but they didn't start off that way. So we're gonna put in our zucchini. summer squash. I know it's a spring episode, but that's what they call it, summer squash. And toss all those to toast. So we're coming up on, our pasta is going to be ready in about 6 minutes or so. And from here, all I'm going to be doing is adding in some lemon zest. Zest your lemon first before you squeeze it. Makes it a lot easier. Trust me, I've made that mistake before. So I'm going to zest some lemon. I'm also going to, while we're still here as a family, take some help from the store, as I said before, peeled garlic. And these are like some really huge little pieces of garlic. Jiminy Christmas. Did not think they would be that big. Real time. So I'm just going to grate these on a rack. Yeah, that's the quickest way to do it. So I'm just going to grate these. And this is my microplane. As you can see, I've got a couple of them. I use them for zest. I use them for garlic. It's really just the quickest, most efficient way to get garlic taken care of without having to mince it and dice it and all that mishmash. Too much. They are slippery garlic. So be careful, watch your fingers. You think 3 is enough? I think 3 is enough because these are big boys. All right. 3 fat cloves of garlic in. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit because I don't want to burn the garlic. Man overboard. So I'm just going to stir in the garlic. I'm going to get in my homemade Italian seasoning. This is just oregano, basil, parsley, and marjoram. Marjoram is odd for this, but I like it, so it's in there because it's my house. So I'm just going to do like, what would Rachel say? A poundful? Yeah, a poundful. So that all goes in there. And now it smells amazing. Oh my goodness, the garlic, the onions, the veggies, the herbs, like, oh, it's singing, it's singing. A little bit more salt, but not too much more because we're going to be adding Parmesan at the end of this, and you don't want to add Parmesan and then you got mad salt, like a whole thing. So I'm going to let this hang out for a second. I'm going to add in some tomatoes towards the end, add in some lemon zest and lemon juice with a little bit of white wine to deglaze. And I should be done in a little bit. I'll be plating by the time you guys come back. Sound good?
Sounds great. And I know you were busy cooking and couldn't see the chat, but apparently the answer is you can never add too much garlic, and this is unanimous.
It's so true.
Okay, so before I turn it over to Charis, we have our Creaky Joints commercial break. I wanted to let you all know that if you're on Twitter, we have a Creaky Chat coming up next week, which will be Monday, April 26th. Monday, April 26th at 7 p.m. on Twitter. The topic will be, tell me what your chronic disease is without telling me what your chronic disease is. I'm sure it'll be chock full of awesome tips and perspectives from people in the community that are sharing about what's it like living with their condition and what they've gone through. I'll definitely be there. And if you have a Twitter account, join. If you don't have a Twitter account, make one and follow the hashtag Creaky Chats. We can't wait to see you all there. So without further ado, Charis, some of you may know Charis. They are on our Creaky Joints Patient Council, and they have been gardening for most of their lives, but have recently been gardening extra during COVID. We've all found some hobbies, and Charis, we can't wait to see what you have in store for us.
Thanks, Zoe. So I'm sitting outside my house right now. I live in California, very hot, very dry, but I grew up in North Carolina where it was hot, but also very humid. So I've had to change my whole gardening perspective. So I live with axial spondyloarthritis, which is similar to rheumatoid arthritis in some ways. And I'm going to walk you down my pathway out my back door to my vegetable garden. And on the way, you're going to see some of what I've been working on over the last year to turn what was a bare strip of weeds into a wonderful place to sit and even visit once people are vaccinated. So it's a work in progress, but this used to be just bare weeds and grass. And as you can see, I have seating places spaced out so that when I get tired, I always have a place to sit. So I have fruit trees all over the place. I have sunflowers, and here is my vegetable garden. I am fortunate to own my house. And I'm going to show you some hacks that I've created to garden better. One is my favorite garden wheelchair. So this is just basically a stool on wheels, and I feel badass when I'm using it. I always have a place to sit in the garden, and I can move through all my pathways with it. So first I want to, aside from the wheelchair, I want to show you that I use raised beds because it means I don't have to bend over as much. I can sit on my wheelchair and be almost level with my garden. And I've just put in all of my spring and summer plants. So I have a tomato here, a bunch of tomatoes. In the distance are some cucumbers and beans coming up. And then I have peppers and squash and melon. But also, so not all of you will have the space that I have. Oops, trying to turn the camera around. Come on, camera. There we are. So not everyone has the space I have. So I want to show you something else, which could take up like a balcony or a patio. It could even be inside. This is called a garden tower. There are several options online. It even rotates. And I can even put compost in the middle, which worms eat up. And then it makes a compost tea in the bottom that I can then use as nutrients or whatnot. Some other tricks that I've developed are to use soaker hoses. So these are 4 soaker hoses connected to the same hose that irrigate my whole garden. So I don't have to spend the time standing and watering for hours. But when I do water, I stick with a long arm squeeze hose that's easy to squeeze. And it also has a little notch to hold the squeezer down so that I don't have to hold it the whole time. The other thing that's really important for me is having a basket to carry my seeds around in, to carry my clippers. And once things are ready to be harvested, I can put my fruit and vegetables in there and carry it all in the house rather than trying to carry it all in my hands. And the final thing I want to share is that I spend the most time planning my garden. So this is my drawing that you probably can't see very well, that I spent hours creating so that I knew where I was planting everything before coming out. So on the bad days when I'm in bed, can't really do much else, I'm planning the garden so that once I'm out here, I don't have to work as hard. So those are my basic tips. Also always wear a hat and sunscreen, and take rest breaks, drink lots of water, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Charis. Your backyard garden is lovely and so beautiful. You did such an incredible job setting it up, and we can't wait to see all the vegetables grow and what you do with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we put a call out in our email about gardening tips from you all, and we got many responses. So Corey and I put together a little Q&A so we can share with you all what members of the Creaky Joints community have to say. So Corey, are you ready?
I'm ready, Zoe. Let's take it away.
Okay. what do you do when it's hard to be consistently bending over and kneeling to the garden? What tips do the community have for us?
Yeah, this is definitely a great question. It's one that Charis actually kind of talked about in her answers as well. Raised garden beds are one of the best things to do. Keeping them at least waist height is the way that it will make it so that you don't have to bend over that much. Additionally, having something like a potting table so you don't have to bend over to pot plants. And then using a bench or a kneeler or Charis's little wheelchair, like those types of things, just making it so that you can have those aids and kind of still get over those facts that you might have to get a little closer to the ground.
Definitely such great ideas. And yeah, it was amazing to see a real life example of that from Charis. So what if the heat aggravates your arthritis? What tips did everyone have for that? I know sometimes it can get so tiring in the heat, and especially when you have chronic illness, it can be an even bigger impact. So what did people have to say for that?
Yeah. So the thing that a lot of people kind of mentioned was that the best thing to do is really just pay attention to the weather. So in the summer, garden more in the morning or in the evening when it's typically cooler and you're not having to deal with kind of that midday real heat. In the spring or the fall, kind of wait until you kind of have those cooler temperatures where warmer temperatures where you don't have to deal with kind of the really cold weather as well. So really just kind of playing it by where you are and then drinking as much water as you can. Obviously, if you're outside, you're always told to stay active, to listen, as Jody just said, listen to your body. All of those things are really important, and drink a lot of water.
Great tips. And thank you, Jody, for chiming in. If everybody else has tips or something to comment on, definitely let us know in the chat and we can say it out to the community. So now that we have tips on when to garden and how to garden, what types of plants are best? What should people be looking for when they go shopping?
Yeah. So again, a lot of it kind of depends on your situation. If you have a situation like Charis, where you're fortunate enough to have a couple different garden beds and you can kind of plant things around, do your research and find what plants go best in your area. Some plants like wetter conditions, some plants like drier conditions. Sometimes you have to water them a bit more. Sometimes you don't need to as much. So really finding what works best in your climate and then planting them at that time of the year when they're supposed to be planted. It's pretty straightforward. And a lot of these, the best part about this, if you get it from the seed, a lot of these seed packets have all of the instructions on the back of it. They tell you how deep to plant the seed, they tell you how long it takes for it to germinate, tell you what the best time of year is for it. And then you can also, a lot of local gardens, supply stores sell plants that are already sprouted. And those are really easy to just kind of plant in your garden bed and give them kind of something that you can already start on and go from there. Some of the easier plants to deal with, you can plant an herb garden in an apartment and not need much space. You can plant a basil in a mason jar with some soil and it'll do pretty well for a long time. Obviously, you can't really do that with beet, but you get the idea, is if you play to your strengths once again. And the best thing is to buy, one of the things that was pointed out is buy local seeds, buy from gardens and farms that are in your area, that know the area, know what grows better in those areas, and then buy directly from them. Make friends with your local gardeners.
Great tips. Thank you. And I see Jody added a comment, gardens are constantly evolving just like our lives. This is so true. And I would also add to that gardens take work just like taking care of our bodies. And it's rewarding when you are able to see that your hard work ends up paying off and creating this beautiful place like Charis did. So Corey, my next question is, what about soil? What do we need to know about that? We talked about plants, but what about the thing that the plants need to grow in?
Yeah, again, there's lots of different types of soil depending on what you're trying to plant. If you want something like a succulent that doesn't need much water, there's potting mixes that you can buy that are specifically designed for that have a bit more drainage to them. But if you're planting and you're trying to plant herbs, you want to make sure you get a really good quality soil. You can get things like Miracle Grow or natural organic versions that have fertilizers in them. The better soil that you can get, the less you have to switch it out and bring in more new soil that has fresh nutrients in it. As if you're lucky enough to have a compost, even if it's just kind of a countertop worm composter, it's a great way to use your own kind of food waste, and to have it so that you're consistently not wasting it. One of the best things to do with used coffee grounds is bury used coffee grounds in your planting area, in your pots. It's from the little research I've done, I found that apparently coffee only takes about 10% of the nutrients in the coffee beans out of the beans. So you still have 90% of those nutrients in the coffee grounds that you can then bury into the soil and then put the plants on top of that. And it creates this really nice, rich, fertilized soil. Doing the same thing with kind of crushing up eggshells and throwing crushed up eggshells in the soil is a great way to provide nitrogen to it. Those types of ways where you can kind of find those food waste, even just taking all of your banana peels and mushroom stems and all that stuff, putting it in a blender, throwing some water in there, and basically creating this nutrient-rich milkshake / sludge actually is a great way to create a fertilizer that you don't need a big compost for. So it's all ways to really make sure that you're consistently putting new nutrients into the soil while you're burying things there, or while you're planting things there.
Awesome tips. Wow, thank you, Corey. I love the bit about the coffee. That's so cool. So the last question we were getting a lot from people in the community was, what advice do people have if you're a little nervous about getting started, and feels like a lot of work, it's a bit intimidating? What can people do to get themselves started?
Yeah, gardening is obviously, it's understandable why you can be a little scared, because you don't want to kill anything. It's easy to do with a lot of plants, but at the same time, it's really simple. And the best piece of advice is talk to people at these plant shops, talk to the gardeners, talk to the farmers, because they enjoy telling you about this stuff. They enjoy having people come ask them these questions, because it is a community that likes expanding and that likes bringing new people in. Because when you finally do get to plant something and use the fruits of your labor, it's really rewarding. And even just having the easiest place to start is really, I'd recommend an herb garden. Get a couple herbs, some basil, some rosemary, some sage, some thyme. Really just, as I said, put them in some mason jars. Put them in get a small terracotta pot and put it above the windowsill. And it is really easy to just, while you're cooking, while we're doing stuff like this pasta Chantelle is making, you snip a couple basil leaves off of the plant and you use that fresh. And it's just an incredible way to kind of add some more hobbies to your life and add some more flavors to your food. And it's really fun. So I'd highly recommend it. I enjoy it. If it was easier for me, I would show my little herb garden, but it's not necessarily close to where I am right now. But that being said, it's a lot of fun. Just as I said, when you're cooking and you need a little something, you just snip a couple leaves off the rosemary or the basil.
That's awesome. I was growing herbs last summer and I'm excited to get started again. We would always take some mint from our garden and make mint tea, which was amazing and so soothing for my belly. I loved it. It was so much fun to just go out in the garden and feel so rewarded. So I definitely agree with you. Herbs is the way to go.
And to answer Connor's question, garlic is actually very easy to grow. All you need is a bulb of garlic. You crack open the cloves and you just plant the clove in the ground. And you do that in October, November, let it sit there for the entire winter. During the winter, a clove will turn into a bulb. And then when the bulb sprouts the plant, you pull it out in around April. It's one of the easiest things to plant if you have the space. Highly recommend it.
That's so cool. Oh, Corey, we had no idea the knowledge of gardening you have. This is incredible, except Amy says, does that work if you already ate all your garlic? I think you're in a room of garlic lovers.
It will work because eventually you're going to need to buy more garlic.
True. Chantelle, how's it going over there? How's the recipe?
Recipe is done. Oh my goodness. So I went ahead and I added in all the rest of our ingredients, and then I added in a little bit of capers because I like that kind of briny saltiness that gets added with the capers and that little pop in your mouth when you bite one. So I added some of those. There's broccolini in here. We've got all those great vegetables that we've discussed before. And then, as I mentioned, I had popped some shrimp into the oven, just salt, pepper, olive oil, a little bit of hot pepper, and those went for 15 minutes. Those are now up on top. And speaking of using herbs in different ways, you can use them in a cocktail, you know. So this is a drink that I used to get at a bar that has been closed for years. It was fantastic. It was called Via Mata, and they made a basil lime gimlet. And I one day to the arm bartender and had him give me his recipe. So it's essentially fresh lime juice squeezed over the canister, so you get the oils too. It is basil, and then you muddle it. This is my muddler. No one else can touch it. It's my muddler. You muddle it with a little bit of sugar, add in some vodka. Some people use simple syrup instead, but I think that waters down the drink. You shake the bejesus out of it with a bunch of ice. If you're nice and your parents gave you a shaker with a strainer, you use that. And then you got yourself a lovely cocktail. You can see the bits of basil floating in there. And give it a little hat. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. I think we're all headed to Massachusetts to come to your kitchen, drinks and food.
Oh yeah, we serve both here. Happy to help. Come on by after you're vaccinated.
Good point. And on the topic of vaccines, so you all know we have our COVID patient support program. I'll drop a link, and we've been sharing a lot of resources related to the vaccine. We know we've been getting so many questions from everyone about what it means if you have autoimmune or chronic disease and what you should know about it. So definitely sign up for our COVID support program at ghlf.org. It was great to have you all on tonight. Thank you for joining. Chantelle, any final words?
I just gave the plate to my husband, who is Instagramming it, I guess. So I'll post it later, guys. But the plate is gone. So this is mine for now. So last words is I'm about to have dinner because I'm starving. And thank you guys so much for coming to Creaky Kitchen again for the 6th time. I can't believe it. Time flies when you're having fun. Like I said, if you have any baking ideas, please feel free to @ me. And I would love to dive into that. And my other question, which I didn't ask tonight, which I should have earlier, I apologize for not doing so. Viral food moments on the internet. I want to talk to you guys about this on Twitter because I posted something a few days ago that got quite the response. It was a segment on popcorn salad and how it's really not a thing, but someone on TV thought it was a thing. So are there any viral recipes that you guys have seen that are good or bad? I posted one this morning on my Instagram. My viral breakfast this morning was that burrito hack that you cut it and you fold it into 4. You know that one? Okay, so that was my breakfast this morning. It's the best hack ever. So if you guys have any viral hacks or hacks that you guys have in your own chocolate dip dill pickles. What? Okay, all right.
No, Connor.
No. So if you guys have any of these viral moments that you want to share with me, I would love to see them. As you know, I am Chantelle617 on Twitter and Instagram. Feel free to reach out. Happy to talk to you guys. And thank you so much for coming back to our kitchen.
That's awesome. Great note to end it on. And I will add that I did try the TikTok feta pasta, and it was pretty good. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Chantelle. And I know Charis had to run, but thank you, Charis and Corey and Amy behind the scenes doing tech. And it's great to see all of you. We'll see you next month in the Creaky Kitchen. Good night, everyone.